CERN Incident Report hashtag 2024-11-15-001. Classification, Routine Operations Log. Reporting Officer, Dr. Cale Rain, Senior Particle Physicist. Time, 14h30 LHC beam energy, 6.8 TeV per beam. The morning collision runs proceeded according to standard protocol. Beam stability maintained at 99.7% efficiency throughout the primary experimental window. Nothing in the pre-collision diagnostics suggested today would be anything other than routine data collection for the ongoing Higgs field research. I've been documenting particle interactions at CERN for 8 years. The rhythm of the work has become second nature: morning calibrations, afternoon high-energy runs, evening data analysis. The Large Hadron Collider operates with such precision that anomalies are rare enough to generate genuine excitement among the physics community. We live for the unexpected reading, the data point that doesn't fit our models. Today gave us several. At 1447, during collision sequence LHC 2024-11-15-078, the Atlas detector recorded energy signatures that shouldn't exist. The electromagnetic calorimeter detected particles with decay patterns suggesting masses far beyond our collision energies should produce. Dr. Alvara Lane, my colleague on the monitoring team, dismissed the readings immediately. "Calibration drift," she said, not even looking up from her terminal. "The sensors have been running hot all week. Maintenance scheduled for Friday. But I've seen calibration drift. This wasn't measurement error. The energy conservation equations balanced perfectly. Every joule accounted for. Whatever we created in that collision was real, just impossible according to our current understanding of particle physics." The second anomaly appeared at 1523. The superconducting magnets showed microscopic fluctuations in their containment fields. Temperature variations of 0.003 degrees Celsius across the ring. Insignificant by engineering standards, but our systems don't fluctuate. Period. The magnetic field strength required to guide particles at near light speed demands absolute stability. I contacted Avren Lane, Alvara's brother, and our emergency response coordinator about the magnetic irregularities. His voice carried the practiced calm of someone who's handled 1,000 minor technical issues. "How long until you can run diagnostics?" he asked. "We're locked into the experimental schedule until 1800 hours, I told him. "Union protocols won't let us interrupt the collision sequence without confirmed safety risks." "Any immediate danger to personnel or equipment?" "None detected. Containment integrity holding at 100%. Log it for the Friday maintenance review." Standard procedure. Sensible response. But something in my gut disagreed with the sensible response. The third anomaly was the one that made me start this incident report instead of waiting for the regular end-of-shift documentation. At 1605, the seismic monitors detected activity that had nothing to do with our particle beams. Underground vibrations consistent with small earthquakes, but following no geological pattern. The epicenter readings placed the source directly beneath our facility, not from tectonic activity, but from something else entirely. I pulled up the geological surveys from CERN's construction phase. This region has been seismically stable for over 2 centuries. The bedrock composition doesn't support the type of microfracturing that would generate these vibration patterns. Yet the instruments don't lie. Avren's second call came at 1630, 20 minutes before I contacted him. "Cale, we're getting reports from the surrounding villages. Dead animals found this morning, small mammals, mostly underground species. Local veterinarian thinks it might be some kind of radiation exposure, but our external monitoring shows normal background levels." I felt my stomach drop. What kind of cellular damage? Consistent with high-energy particle bombardment. But that's impossible, right? Our containment systems don't allow any leakage. Impossible. That word has been following me around all afternoon. At 1715, as we prepared to power down the afternoon collision sequence, I reviewed all the data one more time. 3 separate systems, 3 different types of impossible readings, all occurring within the same 4-hour window. The mathematical probability of simultaneous equipment failure across multiple independent systems approaches 0. Which means either we're experiencing the most unlikely technical coincidence in CERN's operational history, or something fundamental has changed in our experimental environment. I've requested emergency diagnostics for all primary systems. Alvara thinks I'm being paranoid. Avren is quietly preparing contingency protocols. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of advanced planning good emergency coordinators do when they can't quite explain an uncomfortable feeling. As I finish this report, the Automated Emergency Alert System has just issued our first public communication about today's events. CERN Facility Notice. Minor technical irregularities detected during routine particle physics experiments. Standard safety protocols have been activated as a precautionary measure. All systems operating within normal parameters. No risk to public safety identified. Facility access restricted to essential personnel pending routine diagnostic procedures. Minor technical irregularities. That's what we're calling it. I've sealed samples from today's particle collisions in the secure storage facility. Whatever we created in collision sequence 078, it left traces. Energy patterns that don't match any known particle signatures. Decay chains that violate conservation laws. Data that will either revolutionize physics or prove that our most sophisticated instruments can suffer collective hallucinations. The backup containment systems show stress indicators I've never seen before. Microscopic fractures in materials designed to withstand forces that could tear apart atomic nuclei. The engineering specs say these systems should remain stable for decades under normal operational stress. Normal. Another word that's losing meaning today. I'm going home to review the theoretical literature on exotic matter states and vacuum decay scenarios. Academic exercises until this afternoon. Now I'm hoping someone somewhere has already worked out the mathematics for what happens when impossible things start becoming possible. Tomorrow's collision schedule includes higher energy levels, 7.2 TeV per beam. Standard research protocol calls for incrementally increasing collision energies to map particle behavior across the spectrum. I think I'm going to recommend we maintain today's energy levels until we understand what happened in sequence 078. Some discoveries aren't worth the risk of repetition. Lab report #447b. Date, March 15, 2024. Time, 6h45 CET. Reporting Officer, Dr. Cale Rain, High Energy Physics Division. Classification, Priority Review required. The anomalous readings from yesterday's experiment 447 have not only persisted through the night cycle, but have begun manifesting across multiple independent detection systems. What began as seemingly isolated calibration errors now present a pattern that defies current theoretical frameworks. At 3:30 this morning, the compact muon solenoid detector registered particle decay signatures that should not exist at our energy levels. The Atlas detector confirmed identical readings 17 minutes later. Most concerning, the electromagnetic calorimeter systems, which operate on completely different principles, are showing corresponding energy spikes that correlate precisely with the impossible particle signatures. Dr. Alvara Lane arrived at 4 o'clock to review the data. Her initial assessment mirrors my own concerns, though she maintains these readings likely represent a systematic error affecting multiple systems simultaneously. Cale, we've run thousands of collisions at these energy levels, she reminded me during our review session. The standard model doesn't just occasionally fail. Either our instruments are compromised, or we're looking at measurement artifacts from electromagnetic interference. I want to believe her rational explanation. Alvara's expertise in quantum chromodynamics exceeds my own, and her methodical approach to anomaly analysis has proven reliable throughout our 3-year collaboration. However, the precision of these errors suggests something more deliberate than random system failure. The superconducting magnet array shows microscopic stress patterns along the beam containment channels. Under normal circumstances, these magnets operate within tolerance ranges measured to 9 decimal places. The current variations, while still technically within operational parameters, form geometric patterns that correlate with the particle signature anomalies. Coincidence seems increasingly unlikely. Dr. Alvara Ford arrived from CERN's Theoretical Physics Department at 5:15. Her reputation for quantum field theory analysis precedes her. Colleagues describe her ability to identify impossible phenomena as unerringly accurate. She requested immediate access to our raw collision data from the past 72 hours. The energy conservation violations you're recording, she told me while reviewing the overnight logs, they're not random. There's a mathematical progression here that suggests quantum entanglement at macro scales. That shouldn't be possible with current technology, but the pattern is unmistakable. Ford's preliminary calculations indicate the anomalous particles are maintaining coherent states far longer than quantum decoherence should allow. If her analysis proves correct, we may have accidentally created stable exotic matter, a theoretical possibility that most physicists consider practically impossible. The communication delays between our facility and external monitoring stations have worsened since yesterday. Our standard data transmission to the global physics network now requires an average of 43% longer to complete. The IT department attributes this to increased electromagnetic interference from our magnet systems, but the pattern of delays correlates suspiciously with our anomalous readings. My brother-in-law of Wren Lane, who coordinates emergency response protocols for the surrounding region, contacted me at 5:45 with questions about unusual seismic activity detected near our facility. According to his monitoring equipment, micro-earthquakes have been occurring at regular intervals since our experiment began. The tremors are too small to affect surface structures, but their timing matches our collision schedule precisely. Kale, I've got geological survey data showing ground resonance patterns I've never seen before, Wren explained during our brief phone conversation. The epicenter appears to be directly beneath your particle collision chamber. Are you running some kind of new high-energy test that might affect bedrock stability? I assured him our current experiments operate within established energy parameters, but privately, I'm beginning to question whether our established parameters adequately account for the phenomena we're observing. The second emergency alert was issued at 6:30. Official CERN communication. Priority level, administrative notice. Distribution, local authority networks. Message. Extended maintenance period required for Large Hadron Collider systems. Civilian access to CERN facilities restricted pending technical review. Estimated duration, 72 to 96 hours. Normal operations will resume following comprehensive system verification. The alert's language troubles me. Extended maintenance suggests routine procedures, but our facility director authorized this message based on data he described as concerning enough to warrant extreme caution. The restriction of civilian access, typically reserved for high-risk experimental phases, implies they're taking these anomalies more seriously than official communications indicate. Ford emerged from her data analysis at 6:40 with conclusions that challenge fundamental assumptions about particle physics. Her calculations suggest we've created what she terms a persistent quantum vacuum state, essentially a region of space-time where normal physical laws operate under modified parameters. The implications are staggering, she told me, her usual academic composure replaced by barely contained excitement mixed with apprehension. If this phenomenon proves stable, we're looking at the first successful creation of exotic matter in a controlled environment. But if it proves unstable, she didn't complete that sentence. The theoretical consequences of uncontrolled exotic matter decay include scenarios that exceed our current emergency protocols. Alvara remains skeptical of Ford's conclusions, arguing that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Alvara, your calculations are mathematically elegant, but they assume our instruments are providing accurate data. Until we can rule out systematic measurement errors, we should focus on identifying the source of our calibration problems rather than rewriting particle physics. The philosophical divide between these two brilliant scientists reflects my own internal conflict. Scientific training demands skepticism of unprecedented phenomena, yet the accumulating evidence suggests we're witnessing something genuinely unprecedented. The morning shift change brought additional concerns. Our night technicians reported that the usual background hum from our cooling systems has developed harmonic overtones that weren't present yesterday. The facility's acoustic signature, normally as predictable as a heartbeat, now includes frequencies that create subtle discomfort among staff members. Several colleagues mentioned unusual dreams involving geometric patterns and mathematical equations they couldn't understand upon waking. While such reports might typically be dismissed as coincidence, the consistency of these descriptions suggests possible electromagnetic effects on brain activity. The human nervous system, while generally insensitive to the fields we generate, might respond to exotic matter interactions in ways we haven't considered. Our data backup systems experienced their first failure at 6:35. The redundant storage arrays that preserve experimental data showed corrupted files for a 17-minute period during last night's monitoring cycle. IT recovery protocols retrieved most of the lost information, but the corruption pattern doesn't match known hardware failure modes. The equipment manufacturer's diagnostic software identified the corruption as impossible under normal operating conditions. Their technical support team requested immediate shipment of our affected storage devices for laboratory analysis, describing the failure pattern as unprecedented in 20 years of enterprise data management. Ford's continued analysis reveals that our persistent quantum vacuum state appears to be growing. The volume of space affected by anomalous particle behavior has expanded by approximately 0.3% since yesterday, following what she describes as exponential expansion patterns consistent with cosmic inflation models. If her measurements prove accurate, we've created a region of space-time that's actively expanding according to principles normally associated with the universe's earliest moments. The implications for both physics and safety are profound. My morning coffee tastes metallic, though I've used the same preparation method for years. The facility's water filtration systems report normal operation, but trace element analysis shows elevated levels of isotopes that shouldn't exist in our supply. The contamination levels remain within health safety margins, but the isotope signatures match theoretical predictions for exotic matter decay products. The second phase of our investigation begins in 30 minutes. Ford will attempt to map the boundaries of our anomalous region using modified detection equipment, while Alvara leads a team focused on identifying potential instrumentation failures. My role involves coordinating these parallel approaches while maintaining communication with external oversight bodies. Avren's Emergency Management Office has quietly begun preliminary evacuation route assessments for villages within a 50-kilometer radius. He assures me this represents standard precautionary planning rather than immediate threat response, but the timing suggests our situation is being taken seriously at governmental levels. The morning light streaming through our laboratory windows carries an unusual quality, slightly refracted, as if passing through a medium with modified optical properties. Ford's instruments confirm that the refractive index of air within our facility has changed by measurable amounts, supporting her exotic matter hypothesis while raising questions about the safety of prolonged exposure. Whatever we've created, it's no longer contained within our collision chamber. The phenomenon is affecting space, time, and matter in ways that challenge our understanding of reality itself. Dr. Cale Rain, High Energy Physics Division, CERN Facility, Geneva. End of report #447b. CERN Incident Report #2024-11-847. Classification Restricted. Reporting Officer, Dr. Cale Rain, Senior Physicist, Beam Operations. Date, November 15, 2024, 14:30 Central European Time. Status, Active Investigation. Initial Assessment Summary. The anomalous energy signatures detected in our previous reports have been confirmed as a stable gravitational distortion centered 847 meters below ground level, directly beneath the LHC's point 4 intersection. What we initially dismissed as instrument malfunction now appears to be something far more serious. Dr. Alvara Ford arrived from the Institute for Advanced Study this morning with her theoretical framework for exotic matter detection. Her preliminary calculations are disturbing. Technical analysis, 10-15 hours. Alvara's equations suggest we've created what she calls a stabilized microsingularity, essentially a black hole that refuses to evaporate according to Hawking radiation predictions. The mathematics are elegant and terrifying in equal measure. The collision energies were within normal parameters, she explained, spreading her calculations across 3 white boards. But the particle configurations created a perfect storm. When the proton beams collided at 13.6 TeV, the exotic quark formations should have decayed in 10 to the power of -23 seconds. Instead, they formed a self-sustaining gravitational matrix. I asked her to translate that into terms a mere experimental physicist could understand. You've accidentally created a tiny black hole that's feeding on the quantum vacuum itself. It's not evaporating, it's growing. The seismic monitors confirm her theoretical predictions. The gravitational anomaly is expanding at approximately 0.003 millimeters per hour. That sounds negligible until you realize the exponential nature of gravitational collapse. Communication anomalies, 11:45 hours. Our attempts to contact the CERN Director General have been frustrated by increasingly frequent communication blackouts. The landline system experiences 15-second delays, mobile networks drop calls mid-conversation, and our satellite uplinks show packet loss rates of 40%. Alvara insists these are unrelated infrastructure issues, but the timing feels too coincidental. The electromagnetic field generated by our little anomaly is strong enough to interfere with sensitive electronics within a 50-kilometer radius. The emergency communication protocols with the Swiss Federal Nuclear Safety Inspectorate haven't worked properly in 6 hours. When we finally established contact, they reported unusual seismic activity, but no specific guidance on containment procedures for gravitational anomalies. Apparently, there's no standard protocol for accidentally creating a black hole. Reversal attempt planning, 1300 hours. Alvara has proposed a desperate solution. Reverse the magnetic field polarity in the superconducting magnets and attempt to recreate the exact collision conditions that created our problem. Her theory suggests that a precise anti-collision might destabilize the exotic matter matrix. It's like trying to undo a knot by pulling the strings in exactly the opposite direction, she explained. If we can reproduce the quantum conditions in reverse, we might be able to collapse the gravitational field back into normal space-time. The engineering challenges are immense. We need to recalibrate 1,232 superconducting magnets to precise reverse polarity, achieve beam stability with a gravitational distortion affecting our particle trajectories, coordinate the attempt within a 4-hour window before the anomaly reaches critical resonance. Alvara's calculations show that beyond critical resonance, the gravitational field will begin affecting the Earth's mantle directly. The implications are, let's just say we need to act quickly. Personnel status update, 1330 hours. The evacuation advisory has expanded to include all settlements within 50 kilometers of the facility. Avren Lane, our emergency coordinator, reports that Swiss authorities are mobilizing disaster response teams, but avoiding the term evacuation to prevent panic. We're calling it a precautionary relocation exercise, Avren explained during our brief communication. The local population thinks it's a drill related to the nuclear facilities upstream. Better they think it's about radiation than gravity. Staff morale is declining rapidly. Half our technical team requested immediate leave after viewing Alvara's calculations. I can't blame them. The equations essentially predict that we have between 18 to 24 hours before the gravitational anomaly becomes irreversible. Dr. Muller from the safety group keeps muttering about unprecedented containment failures, and has been seen updating his personal insurance policies. Magnetic field reversal, 1400 hours. The reversal attempt begins in 30 minutes. Alvara has been in the control room for the past 2 hours, running simulation after simulation. Each one shows the same result: 67% probability of success, 33% probability of catastrophic field amplification. What happens if we're in the 33%? I asked her. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the equations. The gravitational field becomes self-sustaining and begins incorporating normal matter into its structure. The anomaly would reach critical mass within 6 hours. Critical mass meaning? Meaning Switzerland ceases to exist as a geographic entity. Final pre-attempt assessment. The electromagnetic interference has intensified. Our monitoring equipment is showing impossible readings, particles appearing to travel backwards through time, energy conservation violations, and what Alvara describes as quantum foam destabilization. The anomaly itself has grown to approximately 2.1 millimeters in diameter, still microscopic, but its gravitational influence now extends through the entire underground complex. Personnel report feeling heavier in certain areas, and several staff members have experienced severe nausea and disorientation. Most concerning, the local wildlife has completely disappeared. No birds, no insects, no small mammals within a 30-kilometer radius. Even the earthworms have vanished from the soil samples. Emergency alert status. The third official emergency alert was transmitted at 13:45. Temporary relocation advisory for residents within 50 kilometers radius. Extended technical maintenance requiring civilian safety protocols. It's bureaucratic language designed to avoid panic while still providing legal cover for mass evacuation. The Swiss Federal Council has been briefed on the situation, but requested we avoid terms like black hole or gravitational collapse in official communications. Conclusion. In 15 minutes, we attempt to reverse engineer the creation of a stable microsingularity using equipment designed for particle physics, not gravitational manipulation. The theoretical foundation is sound but untested. The engineering challenges are unprecedented. If this works, we'll have the most interesting research paper in the history of physics. If it doesn't work, there may not be anyone left to write the paper. Dr. Alvara Lane has given the final countdown authorization. Field reversal commences at 14:30 precisely. I hope the next report I file will be documenting our success, rather than humanity's first accidental black hole disaster. End report. Next update. Post-reversal assessment scheduled for 1600 hours. Emergency status. Critical. Active containment attempt in progress. CERN incident report number 047 Alpha. Classification critical. Reporting officer, Dr. Cale Rain, senior particle physicist. Timestamp, 14:23 and 7 seconds Central European Time. Error, time sync failure. Location, CERN facility, Marin, Switzerland. The magnetic containment field collapsed at 14:07 local time. I need to state this clearly because the implications are beyond anything we've ever modeled. Alvara's attempt to reverse the quantum entanglement using the dipole magnets didn't just fail. It created a feedback loop that accelerated the gravitational anomaly's expansion rate by a factor of 12. The micro-black hole isn't micro anymore. Current status, gravitational anomaly. Diameter, 47.3 meters and expanding. Expansion rate, 2.1 meters per minute, previously 0.18 m/min. Gravitational gradient, 1.7 times 10 to the power of -6 m/s superscript 2 at 500 meter perimeter. Underground chamber structural integrity, compromised. The first sign something was catastrophically wrong came when the emergency lighting in Sector 7 began strobing in a pattern that matched the gravitational wave emissions. Electronics don't respond to gravity like that. They shouldn't. But the anomaly is warping space-time enough that electromagnetic fields are being dragged along with the curvature. Alvara's last transmission before we lost contact with the theoretical physics team was a single word: cascade. The power grid failure started 17 minutes after containment collapse. Not just our facility, the entire Swiss national grid. The anomaly is generating electromagnetic pulses that are propagating through the power lines like a virus through a nervous system. Transformers are exploding in a widening circle that's already reached Geneva. Power grid failure report. Switzerland, 78% offline. Eastern France, 34% offline. Northern Italy, 19% offline. Southern Germany, 12% offline. Failure progression, 147 kilometers per hour average. A Vren's voice crackled through the emergency radio 20 minutes ago. Cale, the evacuation routes are failing. We've got 3 million people trying to leave the affected zone on roads that are losing traffic control systems. The tunnels through the Alps are going dark one by one. I can see it from the observation deck, a river of brake lights stretching toward the horizon, vehicles abandoned where they stopped when their electronics failed. The electromagnetic interference is creating dead zones where nothing electrical functions. Cars, phones, pacemakers, everything. The underground chambers are screaming. Literally. Metal stress creates sound, and what I'm hearing is the mountain itself being slowly torn apart by tidal forces that shouldn't exist on Earth. The concrete walls have developed cracks that run in perfect spirals, following the gravitational field lines like iron filings around a magnet. Structural assessment. Main ring tunnel, 23% structural damage. Vertical shafts, evacuation required. Surface buildings, minor damage, cosmetic. Underground chambers, critical failure imminent. Temperature readings are inconsistent. The instruments show normal atmospheric conditions, but my skin feels like I'm standing next to a blast furnace. The gravitational time dilation is creating thermal gradients that my training never prepared me for. Time moves differently near the anomaly, milliseconds slower per minute, but enough to create heat through relativistic effects. Alvara Ford's final calculations, transmitted just before the communication blackout, indicated the anomaly will achieve critical mass in approximately 8 hours. At that point, the gravitational field will be strong enough to begin stripping electrons from atoms in the surrounding matter. The mountain will start to sublime, not melt, not break apart, but simply cease to exist as organized matter. Evacuation status update. CERN personnel, 2,847 evacuated, 156 unaccounted for. Civilian population, 50 kilometers radius, 340,000 displacement in progress. Transportation infrastructure, degrading rapidly. Communication systems, short-range radio only. The emergency alert system is broadcasting the same message every 30 seconds. Immediate evacuation required, expanding danger zone, Seek shelter beyond 100-kilometer radius. But the transmission quality is degrading. Each repetition sounds more distorted, more mechanical, as if the radio waves themselves are being stretched by the gravitational field. I need to evacuate. The floor beneath my feet is vibrating with a frequency that matches my heartbeat, and I can't tell if that's coincidence or if the anomaly is somehow synchronizing with biological rhythms. The other physicists left in the facility are reporting similar symptoms: cardiac arrhythmia, disorientation, and the constant sensation of falling even while standing still. Resource status: emergency power, 6 hours remaining. Food supplies, adequate for 48 hours, assuming current personnel count. Water, contaminated with unknown particles. Medical, Dr. Reeves treating 23 cases of radiation exposure, 7 severe. The irony isn't lost on me that we spent decades preparing for containment breaches, radiation leaks, and equipment failures. But we never planned for success. We never imagined that our experiment would work too well, that we'd create something that couldn't be uncreated. Avren's final message came through 47 minutes ago. Kale, I'm losing contact with the outer evacuation zones. The interference is creating a communications shadow that's growing with the anomaly. Whatever you're going to do, you need to do it now. The window for any kind of solution is closing. The facility is being abandoned. Protocol dictates that I should leave with the emergency team, but someone needs to document what's happening here. Someone needs to record how the world ended, so that whoever comes after can understand what went wrong. The gravitational anomaly is now visible to the naked eye, a sphere of distorted space that bends light around its edges like a lens. Stars are visible through it in the middle of the afternoon, but they're not our stars. The light is being bent so severely that I'm seeing parts of the universe that should be impossible to observe from Earth. Final facility status: structural integrity, evacuate immediately. Experimental apparatus, unrecoverable. Personnel, final evacuation in progress. Anomaly containment, impossible. The emergency stairs are groaning under loads they were never designed to bear. The gravitational gradient is pulling the building's foundation toward the anomaly, creating stress patterns that are turning the concrete into powder. I can taste pulverized stone in the air. Time to go. The evacuation convoy is leaving in 12 minutes, and the roads beyond that point may not exist much longer. If anyone finds this record, know that we tried to fix what we broke. The universe is larger and stranger than we imagined, and we may have just discovered that some doors should never be opened. End report. Automated Emergency Broadcast System. Transmission number 089 Alpha. 14h47 minutes 23 secondes 7. Signal dégradation. 34%. Immediate evacuation required. Expanding danger zone. Seek shelter beyond 100-kilometer radius. Repeat. Immediate evacuation required. Expanding danger zone. Seek shelter beyond. Signal lost. Emergency log entry number 47. Dr. Kale Rain, Particle Physics Division. Location: CERN facility. Emergency evacuation protocol active. Time: 14:27 Central European Time. Day 3 of crisis. Classification: critical. The klaxons have been screaming for 6 minutes straight. I can barely hear myself think over the mechanical wail echoing through the concrete corridors, but I need to document this. If we don't make it out, someone has to know what happened here. The gravitational anomaly reached critical threshold at 1421. The magnetic containment fields we've been nursing for 3 days finally gave out completely. Alvara's last transmission from control room B was just static and what sounded like metal tearing. I can't reach her on any frequency. The floor beneath my feet is vibrating, not the familiar hum of the collider, but something deeper, more wrong. It's like the Earth itself is shivering. Through the reinforced windows, I can see the particle beam housing beginning to buckle inward. The concrete is developing stress fractures in perfect spiral patterns, following the gravitational distortion lines Alvara calculated yesterday. Yesterday. God, was it only yesterday that she was here, scribbling equations on the whiteboard, insisting we could reverse this? Her theoretical framework for exotic matter stabilization. It was brilliant, impossible, and our only hope. Now the whiteboard is cracked down the middle, her equations bisected by a fissure in the wall. Emergency alert system. Automated broadcast number 23. Immediate evacuation required. Expanding danger zone. All personnel proceed to designated assembly points. Repeat. Immediate evacuation required. The automated voice cuts through my thoughts. Assembly Point C. That's where I'm supposed to go. But the main corridor is blocked by debris from the ceiling collapse near Sector 7. I can hear voices echoing from the stairwells, people shouting coordinates, calling names. Someone is screaming about trapped personnel in the lower levels. I've got my emergency kit and the portable radiation detector Alvara gave me. The Geiger counter is chattering constantly now, not the steady background radiation we've learned to live with, but erratic bursts that spike every few seconds. The numbers keep climbing, 15 millisieverts per hour, 18, 22. At this rate, even with protective gear, we've got maybe 30 minutes before acute radiation syndrome becomes inevitable. The lights flicker and die. Emergency power kicks in, bathing everything in that sickly red glow. In the crimson half-light, I can see dust motes floating in impossible patterns, not falling straight down but spiraling, following the gravitational field lines that are warping space itself around the anomaly. I key my radio one more time. Alvara, this is Kale. If you can hear this, I'm heading for Assembly Point C. The main route is blocked, taking service Tunnel 12. Please respond. Static. Nothing but static and the distant sound of concrete cracking. The tunnel is narrow, barely wide enough for the utility pipes that run along the ceiling. My footsteps echo strangely here. There's a delay, like the sound is bending around corners that don't exist. The walls are sweating, moisture beading on the concrete in patterns that remind me of the magnetic field visualizations we use to show students. Halfway through the tunnel, I find her. Dr. Alvara Ford is slumped against the wall next to Emergency Access Panel J7, her tablet still glowing in her lap. Her radiation badge is black, completely exposed. She's been here for hours, working while the rest of us were trying to coordinate evacuation procedures. Alvara. I drop to my knees beside her. She's conscious, barely, her dark eyes unfocused but still tracking my movement. Kale. Her voice is a whisper, throat raw from radiation exposure. The manual override. I found it. She lifts the tablet with shaking hands. The screen shows a schematic I've never seen before, buried deep in the collider's safety protocols, an emergency shutdown sequence that requires physical access to the primary injection systems. The magnetic field collapse, it's not random. She coughs, and I see blood on her lips. The exotic matter formation is following quantum entanglement patterns. If we can reverse the particle injection sequence manually, create an inverse resonance cascade. Alvara, we need to get you out of here. The evacuation. No. Her grip on my arm is surprisingly strong. Listen to me. The gravitational distortion, it's not just affecting us. The tidal forces, they're reaching the surface. The power grid failures across Switzerland, they're not from electromagnetic pulse. The gravitational anomaly is warping the Earth's magnetic field lines. The tablet screen flickers, showing a map of Europe with pulsing red zones spreading outward from our location. Nuclear facilities across France, Germany, Belgium. Their markers are changing from green to yellow to red, without grid power for cooling systems. I understand now. The nuclear plants can't maintain reactor cooling. They'll start melting down within hours. She nods, each movement obviously costing her. The manual override panel is in Sublevel 5, next to the primary injection chamber. You have to get there before the facility structure becomes too unstable. I can't leave you here. You have to. She forces the tablet into my hands. The access codes are in the emergency directory. Look for Protocol 77 Alpha. It was designed for runaway fusion scenarios, but the principle is the same. Create an inverse particle cascade to destabilize the exotic matter matrix. The building shudders around us. Dust rains from the ceiling, and I can hear the groan of steel under impossible stress. The gravitational anomaly is growing stronger, warping the facility's structure in real time. Alvara, go Kale. Someone has to try. She closes her eyes, leaning back against the concrete wall. Tell my sister, tell Alvara Holt that the radiation signature data is in my lab computer. Password is quantum_entanglement_42. She'll understand what it means. I want to argue, to find some way to carry her with me, but we both know the truth. She's taken a lethal dose of radiation. Even if I could get her to medical facilities, even if there were medical facilities still functioning, it wouldn't matter. The tablet weighs heavy in my hands as I stand. Protocol 77 Alpha. Sublevel 5. Manual override of the primary injection systems. Thank you, I whisper, but she's already unconscious. The service tunnel continues for another 100 meters before opening into the main evacuation corridor. The scene is chaos. Personnel streaming toward the exits, carrying injured colleagues, shouting updates into radios that mostly return static. I recognize faces from the cafeteria, the morning briefings, the countless meetings where we discuss theoretical scenarios exactly like this one. Dr. Martinez from the computing division has a nasty gash on his forehead, helped along by 2 technicians I don't know by name. Sarah Chen from radiation safety is coordinating triage near the emergency exit, her yellow dosimeter badge already showing concerning exposure levels. Kale of Ren Lane appears beside me, his emergency coordinator vest bright orange in the red emergency lighting. Alvara's brother has always been the calm one, the one who made sure our theoretical disasters had practical response protocols. Now his face is grim, radio crackling with overlapping emergency calls. "Where's Alvara?" he asks. I shake my head. "Lost contact an hour ago. Control room B is inaccessible." His jaw tightens, but he nods. Professional to the end. "We've got partial structural collapse in sectors 4 through 7. The gravitational effects are destabilizing the foundation. Engineering estimates maybe 20 minutes before complete facility compromise. I need to get to sublevel 5. Kale, that's in the opposite direction from evacuation. The stairwell access is compromised. Alvara found a manual override protocol. It might be able to destabilize the exotic matter formation. Avren's expression changes. Hope, maybe, or the desperate calculation of someone who's been managing disasters all his life. Sublevel 5. There's emergency access through the maintenance shaft in Section 9. But the radiation levels. I know. I show him the tablet. Someone has to try. He keys his radio. "All units, this is emergency coordinator lane. Continue evacuation procedures. Priority Alpha." Then to me, "I'll guide you as far as I can. But Kale, if this doesn't work, if the facility collapses." I know. We move against the flow of evacuating personnel, deeper into the facility. The gravitational distortions are stronger here. My inner ear keeps telling me that up and down are shifting, that the corridor is tilting when my eyes insist it's level. The walls show more stress fractures, some large enough to put my fist through. The maintenance shaft access is a narrow opening behind a panel marked with radiation warnings. Avren helps me remove the cover, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. "Radio contact will be spotty down there," he says. "The electromagnetic interference is getting worse." I clip the portable radio to my belt anyway. "If I don't make it back, you will." But his voice lacks conviction. "Emergency alert system. Automated broadcast number 24. Continental emergency declared. Seek immediate shelter. Radiation zones expanding. Avoid major population centers. Repeat. Continental emergency declared." The announcement echoes through the shaft as I begin my descent. Continental emergency. That means the effects have spread beyond Switzerland, beyond the immediate blast radius we calculated in our worst-case scenarios. 20 rungs down, the ladder vibrates under my hands. Not from footsteps or machinery, but from the gravitational waves pulsing outward from the anomaly below. Each pulse is stronger than the last, warping space-time in microscopic but measurable amounts. 30 rungs. The radiation detector on my belt is clicking constantly now, a mechanical heartbeat counting down my remaining healthy lifespan. But if Alvara's calculations are correct, if Protocol 77 Alpha can create an inverse resonance cascade, maybe there will still be a world left to worry about radiation poisoning. Sublevel 5 opens into a cathedral of concrete and steel, the primary injection chamber stretching away into shadows. The particle beam housing runs down the center like a massive spine, its superconducting magnets dark and silent for the first time in years. At the far end, I can see the manual override panel, its warning lights flashing in sequence. Authorized personnel only, radiation hazard, magnetic field danger. The tablet screen flickers as I approach. Protocol 77 Alpha loads, showing a sequence of manual switches and timing requirements that would make a concert pianist weep. 17 separate actions, performed in precise order, with timing tolerances measured in milliseconds. My hands are shaking as I begin the sequence. Not from fear, though there's plenty of that, but from radiation exposure. Early symptoms setting in faster than I expected. Switch 1, primary magnetic field reversal. The chamber fills with a low harmonic hum. Switch 2, particle injection sequence inverse initialization. The hum changes pitch, becomes almost musical. Behind me, I can hear the facility groaning, steel and concrete protesting the impossible stresses of warped space-time. Debris patters down from the ceiling as another gravitational pulse ripples outward. Switch 3 through 7, injection timing cascade. The musical hum becomes a chord, then a symphony of electromagnetic frequencies that I can feel in my bones. The building shudders, a deep tremor that seems to come from the earth itself. Through the chamber's observation windows, I can see cracks spreading across the concrete walls, following the spiral patterns of gravitational distortion. Switches 8 through 12, field harmonics calibration. The symphony reaches crescendo, and I realize that the sound isn't just electromagnetic interference. It's the exotic matter formation itself, resonating as the inverse cascade begins to destabilize its quantum matrix. My vision blurs. The radiation detector has stopped clicking, not because the levels have dropped, but because it's reached maximum reading and given up. I've got minutes, maybe less, before I collapse entirely. Switches 13 through 15, final approach sequence. The harmonic frequencies shift, becoming discordant, chaotic. The exotic matter formation is fighting the reversal, quantum uncertainty principles, creating interference patterns in the stabilization attempt. The chamber lights flicker and die. In the darkness, I can see something impossible. The air itself is glowing, charged particles following the warped magnetic field lines in streams of blue-white luminescence. Switch 16, cascade initialization armed. One switch left. One final action to either save the world or make everything infinitely worse. The tablet screen goes dark. Emergency power has failed completely. But I remember the sequence, burned into my memory by repetition and desperation. Switch 17, execute. The world explodes into light and sound and gravitational chaos. The inverse cascade triggers, sending waves of destabilized exotic matter rippling back through the injection system. For a moment that lasts forever, I can feel the fabric of space-time stretching, snapping back, finding a new equilibrium. Then darkness takes me, and I don't know if I've saved the world or just made the end more spectacular. The last thing I hear is of Ren's voice on the radio, distorted by static and distance. Kale, the readings, something's changed. The gravitational distortion is. Kale, respond. Please respond. But I can't respond. The tablet slips from my fingers, clattering across the concrete floor, and I surrender to the darkness that tastes like copper and ozone and the end of everything I've ever known. Emergency alert system, final automated broadcast. Stabilization protocol engaged, gravitational anomaly contained, evacuation continues. Radiation zones remain active. Seek medical attention immediately. End of emergency log entry number 47. Status, Dr. Kale Rain, location unknown. Facility status, evacuation complete, structural integrity compromised. Anomaly status, contained but active. Radiation levels, critical long-term monitoring required. Emergency log entry number 47. Dr. Kale Rain, Particle Physics Division. Location, temporary refugee camp, Marin Industrial Zone. Day 5 post-incident. Local time, 14:32, radio sync unavailable. The taste of metallic dust never leaves your mouth here. Everything is coated in a fine gray powder that settled after the buggy nuclear plant went critical yesterday. Avren says it's just concrete particulates from the demolitions, but the Geiger counter Alvara Holt brought tells a different story. The clicking has become background noise, like tinnitus you can't ignore. Found Avren at the coordination tent this morning, bent over maps spread across a folding table that's seen better days. Dark circles under his eyes, 3 days of stubble, and that particular smell of someone who's been running on adrenaline and instant coffee. When he looked up, I saw something I'd never seen in his face before: uncertainty. Avren Lane, the man who evacuated 12,000 people from the Jura region in 18 hours, looking completely lost. The Fessenheim plant went dark 4 hours ago, he said without preamble. That's 7 facilities we've lost contact with since the grid collapsed. I pulled up the camp's single folding chair, luxury accommodations, and studied his maps. Red X's marked failed nuclear installations across France, Switzerland, and Germany. Each X represented millions of lives disrupted, entire regions that might remain uninhabitable for decades. The mathematics of catastrophe, written in felt tip marker on laminated European infrastructure charts. Cooling systems? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Emergency diesel generators ran out of fuel yesterday. The roads are still blocked from the gravitational distortions around Geneva. We can't get supply trucks through the debris fields. He traced a route with his finger, showing how the expanding anomaly had buckled highways and collapsed overpasses. Even if we could, there's no way to transport enough fuel to keep the pumps running at 7 different locations. The refugee camp spreads across what used to be an industrial parking lot, now home to nearly 3,000 people living in emergency shelters that were designed for short-term use. Red Cross tents, military surplus canvas, and improvised lean-tos made from car parts and shopping cart frames. The smell of too many people in too small a space, mixed with diesel exhaust from the generators powering the medical tent and the acrid smoke from burning plastic. People using whatever they can find for fuel. Dr. Alvara Holt found us around noon, carrying a military-grade radiation detector that looked like it weighed as much as she did. Alvara Ford's younger sister, with the same sharp cheekbones and intense brown eyes, but where Alvara had been warm and collaborative, this sister radiated cold efficiency. She'd driven here from the Paul Scherrer Institute, navigating roads that GPS couldn't map anymore because the gravitational anomalies had shifted the landscape. Background radiation is climbing, she announced, setting down her equipment with the careful precision of someone who'd been handling dangerous materials for years. Not fast enough to kill anyone immediately, but we're looking at long-term exposure issues, especially for the children. She pulled out readings that made my stomach drop. The numbers were still within acceptable limits, technically, but the trend line pointed in only one direction. Up. How long do we have? Avren asked. Before what? Before people start getting sick. Before cancer rates spike? Before genetic damage becomes permanent. Alvara's voice carried the particular bitterness of someone who'd spent her career studying the long-term effects of radiation exposure. We're already there. The question is how much worse it gets. She unpacked her portable spectrometer, a device that looked like a briefcase crossed with a laptop. The screen showed wavelength spikes that painted a picture of isotopic contamination I'd only seen in textbooks. Cesium-137, strontium, 90, plutonium-239, the greatest hits of nuclear disaster, now scattered across the European countryside like radioactive confetti. Your gravitational anomaly isn't just growing, she said, looking directly at me. It's affecting the decay patterns of the released isotopes. Some are becoming more stable, others less. We're seeing half-lives that don't match any known physics. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Not only had our experiment created a persistent gravitational distortion, but it was somehow interfering with fundamental nuclear processes. The contamination wasn't following normal models of dispersion and decay. We couldn't predict how long areas would remain dangerous because the radioactive materials were behaving in ways that violated our understanding of atomic physics. There's something else, Alvara continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I've been monitoring the seismic data from the CERN site. The gravitational fluctuations are following a pattern. Regular oscillations like a heartbeat. She showed us the readouts on her tablet, wave patterns that resembled biological rhythms more than random gravitational disturbances. The anomaly wasn't just expanding, it was pulsing, breathing, as if it had developed some form of organic behavior. That's impossible, I said, but the words felt hollow. Nothing about this situation fell within the realm of possible anymore. 3 days ago, you would have said creating a stable micro-black hole was impossible too, she replied. But here we are. The afternoon brought new refugees, families from the expanded evacuation zones, carrying whatever they could fit in their cars. An elderly couple from Ferney-Voltaire, their citron packed with photo albums and a cat carrier. A family of 5 from Ornex, the parents trying to explain to their children why they couldn't go home. Each arrival brought new stories of abandoned towns, of livestock dying in the fields, of the strange silence that had settled over the countryside. The camp's single radio crackled to life at 1600 hours, broadcasting the 6th official emergency alert since the crisis began. The voice was different this time, not the smooth, professional tone of the early announcements, but someone who sounded exhausted, desperate. This is Emergency Broadcast Network, European Disaster Response. Day 5 of the continental emergency. Multiple radiation zones confirmed across France, Switzerland, and Western Germany. Avoid all major cities. Seek underground shelter where possible. Government services are suspended in affected areas. Local authorities are operating independently. This message will repeat. The static that followed seemed to stretch on forever. Avren folded his maps with the careful precision of someone who'd done this hundreds of times, but his hands were shaking. "We need to move the camp," he said. "The radiation levels are manageable now, but if the trend continues..." "Where?" I asked. "Where do you move 3,000 people when half of Europe is becoming uninhabitable?" He didn't have an answer. None of us did. As evening settled over the camp, I found myself thinking about Alvara Ford, about her final moments in the CERN facility, trying to manually shut down systems that had already spiraled beyond control, about the choice she made to stay behind while the rest of us ran for our lives, about whether her sacrifice had actually accomplished anything, or if she died for nothing more than the illusion of doing something heroic in the face of inevitable catastrophe. The gravity of our situation, literal and figurative, was becoming clear. We'd created something that was rewriting the laws of physics in real time, and we had no idea how to stop it. The European continent was becoming a wasteland of radiation and spatial distortion, and we were trapped in the middle of it with nowhere to run. Tomorrow, Alvara Holt wants to attempt a closer approach to the CERN site to gather more data about the anomaly's behavior. She says understanding the pattern might give us insights into how to contain it. But I can see something else in her eyes when she talks about returning to the place where her sister died. Something that looks like the need for revenge against the universe itself. The Geiger counter is still clicking. The taste of metal dust still coats my tongue. And somewhere beneath our feet, the Earth itself is learning to behave in ways that defy everything we thought we knew about reality. We're not just surviving anymore. We're adapting to a world that's fundamentally broken, and we have no choice but to figure out how to live in the wreckage of our own creation. End of log entry number 47. Emergency log entry number 127. Dr. Cale Rain, former CERN particle physicist. Location: Refugee Camp Delta 7, Burn Outskirts. Day 12 post-incident. Time: 14:30 local, estimated. The camp is dying. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean it in the same way a patient dies when their organs shut down one by one. The water purification system failed yesterday. The medical tent ran out of radiation sickness medication 3 days ago. And the latrines. Christ, the smell alone is killing morale faster than the radiation reports. Avren hasn't returned from his reconnaissance mission. He left 36 hours ago with a small team to check the roads leading east, toward what used to be Zurich. The plan was simple: 12 hours out, 12 hours back, radio check every 4 hours. We lost contact after his second check-in. Still no signal from Recon Team 3, announces Petra, the camp's de facto communications officer. She's maybe 19, studying engineering before the world ended. Now she's the only one who can keep our ham radio working. Just static and something else. The something else is what we've all been hearing. A low-frequency hum that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. It started 2 days ago, right around the time the gravitational readings went completely insane. Dr. Alvara Holt thinks it's the anomaly reaching some kind of resonance frequency with the Earth's core. I think it's the sound of everything falling apart. We need to talk about rationing. Marie, the former mayor of a village I can't even pronounce anymore, spreads our inventory sheets across the plastic table. At current consumption, we have maybe 5 days of food left. Water, if the pumps hold out, maybe 3. The numbers blur together. Mathematics used to be my language, elegant and precise. Now it's just a countdown to catastrophe. 2,847 people in the camp. 14,235 calories of food remaining. 8,920 liters of questionable water. The equation solves itself, not enough. What about the supply drops? Asks Henrik, clutching his radiation dosimeter like a rosary. The thing hasn't stopped clicking since we arrived. The emergency broadcast said. The emergency broadcast stopped yesterday, Petra interrupts. Last message was automated, just coordinates and a loop saying seek underground shelter. Even that's gone quiet now. I catch Alvara Holt staring at me from across the tent. Her eyes haven't lost their accusatory edge, not since I told her about her sister's death. Dr. Alvara Ford, brilliant theoretical physicist, died trying to manually shut down the collider systems. Died because I couldn't solve the equations fast enough. Died because I suggested the magnetic field reversal that made everything worse. The tent flap bursts open. It's Marcus, one of the volunteers who's been monitoring the perimeter. His face is gray, and not just from radiation exposure. We found them, he gasps. Recon Team 3. Jesus Christ, we found them. The silence stretches like a held breath. Finally, Marie asks, "How many survivors?" Marcus's hands shake as he fumbles for his water bottle. That's not the right question. You need to see this. The vehicles they're twisted. Like someone took them and wrung them out like dishcloths. The metal is spiral-shaped, but the spiral goes in directions that don't exist. Alvara Holt stands abruptly. Gravitational shear. The Anomalies field is becoming non-uniform. Space-time distortion is creating localized tidal forces. She turns to me, and there's something worse than anger in her expression now. There's understanding. How close were they to the primary distortion zone? Maybe 15 kilometers from the CERN site, Marcus whispers. But the thing is, we found them 40 kilometers from where they should have been. The GPS says they were at the right coordinates, but the landscape, it's like someone folded the map. My hands find my emergency log, fingers moving automatically across the keyboard. The familiar motion of recording data, even data that makes no sense. Even data that means we're all going to die. The bodies, I hear myself ask. Marcus closes his eyes. They were still alive when we found them. Avren was conscious. Said he'd been trying to radio for help, but his equipment was broadcasting yesterday's conversations. Time distortion, maybe. He kept asking about Alvara, wanting to know if she was okay. The pencil snaps in my grip. Was? What do you mean was? Kale. Alvara Holt's voice cuts through the air like a scalpel. Avren died 20 minutes ago. But before he went, he told us something. About the mission. About why he really went out there. The tent feels smaller suddenly, the air thicker. What are you talking about? He wasn't just checking the roads. Her words come out clipped, precise, like she's presenting data to a peer review committee. He was meeting someone. Someone who'd been sending him encrypted messages since before the incident. Someone who knew exactly what was going to happen at CERN. The low-frequency hum gets louder, or maybe that's just the blood pounding in my ears. That's impossible. The incident was an accident. A freak quantum fluctuation that happened simultaneously at 6 different particle accelerators across 3 continents. Alvara's voice rises above the general murmur of the camp. Fermilab went down 30 minutes after us. KK in Japan, 12 minutes before that. The German facility at DC reported the same impossible readings at exactly 14:47 Greenwich Mean Time, just like us. The implications hit like a physical blow. I've been so focused on the immediate crisis, on the spreading radiation zones and gravitational anomalies, that I never looked at the bigger picture. Never asked why our safety protocols, developed over decades, failed so completely and so uniformly. You're saying this was coordinated? My voice sounds hollow, distant. I'm saying my brother was working with whoever planned this. Her composure finally cracks, and I see the grief she's been hiding behind anger and scientific detachment. And my sister died for nothing. Because the accident that killed her wasn't an accident at all. Outside, the automated emergency alert system crackles to life. It's been days since we heard anything but static, and everyone in the tent goes quiet. Global emergency broadcast, day 12 post-incident, multiple coordinated events confirmed, pattern suggests intentional synchronized failure, unknown organization responsible, gravity anomalies reaching critical mass, planetary rotation affected, seek immediate underground shelter. This is not a drill, repeat, this is not a drill. The message loops 3 times, then dissolves back into static punctuated by that omnipresent hum. I stare at the broken pencil in my hands, wood and graphite fragments that used to be a tool for recording observations. Everything I thought I knew about the incident, about cause and effect, about random quantum events and safety protocols, all of it is fragmenting like this pencil. He gave me something before he died, Marcus says quietly. Said to give it to the physicist. Said you'd understand what it means. He hands me a small device about the size of a smartphone but thicker, with a cracked screen and ports I don't recognize. The display flickers weakly, showing what looks like a countdown timer. 87 hours, 43 minutes and 12 seconds. 87 hours, 43 minutes and 11 seconds. 87 hours, 43 minutes and 10 seconds. What happens when it reaches 0? I ask, but I already know I don't want to hear the answer. Alvara Holt leans over my shoulder, her breath warm against my ear. According to the quantum mechanics involved, that's when the gravitational anomaly reaches critical mass. When it stops being a localized distortion and starts affecting the planet's core rotation. The numbers keep falling. 87 hours, 42 minutes and 47 seconds. 87 hours, 42 minutes, and 46 seconds. Less than 4 days. For days until whatever of Ren and his unknown conspirators set in motion reaches its final phase. For days to figure out how to stop something that was designed to be unstoppable. I look around the tent at the faces of people who trusted me to have answers. Marie with her careful rationing sheets. Petra with her failing radio equipment. Marcus with his 1,000-yard stare. Henrik clutching his clicking dosimeter. And Alvara Holt, whose sister died believing she was saving the world, whose brother died carrying the secrets of the people who destroyed it. The emergency log cursor blinks at me, waiting for my next entry. But what do you write when you discover that everything you've been fighting to survive was orchestrated by the people you trusted most? The gravitational hum grows stronger, and through the tent walls, I can hear the first sounds of panic as the countdown device's implications spread through the camp. Voices rising, footsteps running, the wet sound of someone vomiting from radiation sickness or terror or both. 87 hours, 41 minutes, and 33 seconds. 87 hours, 41 minutes, and 32 seconds. 87 hours, 41 minutes, and 31 seconds. Time is running out, and I'm beginning to understand that maybe it was always supposed to. Emergency log entry number 47, Dr. Cale Rain. Date: timestamp error, gravitational field interference. Location: Marin Emergency Shelter, 23 kilometers from CERN. Radiation level: 847 MSV/HR, critical. The pattern was there all along. I should have seen it. 3 days since Alvara died in my arms, his skin gray with radiation poisoning, whispering numbers through blood-flecked lips. I thought they were random coordinates, measurements from his final reconnaissance. I was wrong. Alvara Holt hasn't spoken to me since we carried his body to the makeshift morgue. Can't blame her. First her sister Alvara Ford dies in that heroic stupidity at the Collider. Now her brother-in-law follows. The woman's lost everything to my experiments and she knows it. But those numbers Alvara gave me, they weren't coordinates. They were quantum entanglement coefficients. I've been running calculations on the camp's dying laptop, powered by a car battery that's down to its last few percent. The gravitational anomaly isn't expanding randomly. It's following quantum entanglement patterns, specifically patterns that match theoretical models for artificially induced particle decay chains. The math is elegant. Terrifying but elegant. Someone designed this. Personal note, added later. Found Alvara at the radiation monitoring station. She's improvised from salvaged equipment. She was hunched over printouts, her dark hair falling across readings that made my blood freeze. These isotope signatures, she said without looking up. Her voice was hoarse from the dust storms that have been carrying radioactive particles across what used to be the Swiss countryside. They're too clean. I leaned over her shoulder, careful not to touch. Physical contact has become complicated since the radiation exposure. We're all walking corpses on borrowed time, but some of us are borrowing more than others. The data showed isotopic decay patterns from the failed nuclear plants. But Alvara was right, they were too uniform, too precise. Nuclear accidents create chaos. This looked like choreography. My sister left me something, Alvara said, finally meeting my eyes. They were the same deep brown as Alvara Ford's had been, but harder now. Grief does that, hidden in her personal effects. She suspected something weeks before the accident. She handed me an encrypted data pad, the kind theoretical physicists use for sensitive calculations. The screen flickered to life, showing Alvara Ford's final research notes. Synchronization protocols detected in safety system updates. Pattern suggests coordinated timing mechanism. If I'm right, CERN isn't the only target. Similar modifications detected in Fermilab protocols confirmed. DC systems probable. KK facility updates under investigation. Someone is preparing simultaneous failures. The timestamp showed she'd written this 2 days before the accident. 2 days before she died, trying to stop what she knew was coming. Radio intercept, transcribed by Drive E. Holt. Static interference has been getting worse as the gravitational field fluctuates, but we managed to catch fragments of international emergency broadcasts tonight. What we heard changes everything. Similar event confirmed at Fermilab facility, cascading failure across Illinois power grid. DC Hamburg reports containment breach. North Sea radiation levels rising. KK Laboratory Japan. Tokyo evacuation proceeding. Coordinated nature of events suggests, not accidental, investigation of personnel records. 4 facilities, 4 continents, all within a 6-hour window. The probability of simultaneous random failures at 4 separate particle accelerator facilities is mathematically impossible. We're talking about odds that exceed the number of atoms in the observable universe. This wasn't an accident. This was an attack. But why? Who benefits from turning half the planet into a radiated wasteland? And how did they get access to safety systems at the most secure facilities on Earth? Final entry this session. Alvara's dying words make sense now. Those weren't random measurements, they were access codes. Someone gave him those codes. Someone who knew he was going on that reconnaissance mission. Someone who wanted us to understand what really happened. The same someone who's been coordinating disaster response with suspicious efficiency. Who always seemed to know which areas to evacuate before the radiation readings confirmed danger. Who had detailed knowledge of CERN's emergency protocols that even I didn't possess. Of Ren, Alvara's own brother. The man who's been our lifeline, our coordinator, our trusted link to whatever remains of organized authority. He's been feeding us information, yes, but he's also been controlling the flow. Deciding what we know and when we know it. I've been going over every interaction, every decision, every piece of information he's provided. The pattern is subtle, but it's there. He's been guiding us, shepherding us towards specific conclusions while carefully limiting our understanding of the bigger picture. The gravitational anomaly is stabilizing. The radiation zones are becoming predictable. The chaos is organizing itself into a new kind of order. And Avren has been managing our response to ensure we adapt to that new order instead of fighting it. Tomorrow, I confront him. Tonight, I'm encrypting these files and hiding copies in 3 separate locations. If something happens to me, if Avren decides I know too much, at least there will be a record. The emergency alerts have stopped coming from official sources. Now they're all automated systems, repeating the same basic warnings. But there's one signal that's been broadcasting on an obscure frequency, a signal that uses CERN's own emergency protocol format. Phase 1 implementation complete. Monitoring stations established. Proceed to Phase 2. The signal originated from the Emergency Coordination Center. From Avren's station. Dr. Alvara Holt, personal addendum. Kale asked me to add my own observations to this record. He's right to be suspicious, but he's missing something crucial. The exotic matter signatures I've been tracking, they're not just stabilizing, they're organizing. The gravitational anomalies are creating what I can only describe as a new kind of space-time geometry. Physics as we understood it no longer applies in the affected zones. But here's what terrifies me. The new physics are consistent. Predictable. They follow rules, just not our rules. Someone didn't just break our world. They replaced it with a different one. And they needed us, the experts, the survivors, the witnesses, to be in specific positions when it happened. To document the transition. To legitimize the new reality. We aren't survivors of a disaster. We're test subjects in an experiment. Battery critical, autosave initiated. End emergency log entry number 47. Lab report number 47 final. Dr. Kale Rain, emergency documentation. Location, CERN facility ruins, Marin, Switzerland. Date, timestamp error, gravitational interference. Radiation level, 847 MSV/HR, lethal exposure zone. The Geiger counter's rapid clicking sounds like skeletal fingers tapping against my helmet. Each pulse reminds me we have maybe 30 minutes before the radiation cooks us from the inside out, assuming the gravitational fluctuations don't tear us apart first. Kale, the approach vector is shifting again. Alvara Holt's voice crackles through the comm, distorted by electromagnetic interference. Her radiation suit makes her look like a ghost against the twisted metal that used to be Building 40. We need to move now, or the field variance will make it impossible to get close enough. The CERN facility looks like it was attacked by an angry god. Concrete walls have been compressed into impossible geometric shapes. The main accelerator tunnel has collapsed in sections, creating jagged valleys where the Earth simply gave up trying to hold its shape. In the center of it all, where the Large Hadron Collider's interaction point one used to be, reality bends inward like a funnel made of visible distortion. The gravitational anomaly pulses with a rhythm that makes my teeth ache. Each pulse sends ripples through the air itself, and I can feel my bones creaking under the variable gravity. Sometimes I weigh nothing at all. Sometimes I weigh 1,000 pounds. Alvara's calculations were correct, I say, checking the modified particle beam projector strapped to my back. The device is cobbled together from salvaged equipment, part linear accelerator, part magnetic containment unit, part desperate prayer. The entanglement cascade can be reversed, but only from within the field's event horizon. Which means we don't come back, Alvara says flatly. I don't answer. We both know the math. The portable quantum detector in my hand shows the anomaly's signature, a stable micro-black hole that shouldn't exist, surrounded by a shell of exotic matter that definitely shouldn't exist. According to every law of physics I spent 20 years studying, this thing should have evaporated in microseconds. Instead, it's been growing steadily, warping space-time around it like a cosmic tumor. Contact ahead, Alvara whispers. A figure emerges from behind a collapsed support beam. Even in the radiation suit, I recognize Evren's walk. He moves with the same confident stride he had when coordinating evacuations, when I thought he was a hero trying to save lives. Hello, Kale. His voice comes through our shared frequency. I was hoping you wouldn't come back. You son of a bitch. Alvara's words come out as a snarl. Your own sister died because of what you did. Alvara knew the risks when she agreed to the modifications, Evren replies, approaching slowly. His suit shows no radiation damage despite being this close to the anomaly for who knows how long. The collective provided us with adequate protection. The collective? I keep the particle projector powered down, but ready. Who the hell are you working for? Evolution, Kale. Humanity's next step. Evren stops about 20 meters away, close enough that I can see his face through the helmet's faceplate. He looks older, changed somehow. His eyes reflect light differently. The simultaneous failures weren't accidents. We triggered the cascade events at 17 facilities worldwide. Humanity was becoming too comfortable with the old physics. The ground beneath us groans as another gravitational pulse hits. I grab Alvara's arm to keep her upright as our weight fluctuates wildly. You murdered millions of people, I say. We liberated them from a dying paradigm. Evren's voice carries an eerie calm. The old universe was running down, entropy winning. These anomalies are doorways to something greater. New physical laws. New possibilities. You're insane. Am I? He gestures toward the distortion. Look at what we've created. Stable exotic matter. Controllable gravitational fields. We've broken through to post-scarcity physics, and you want to shut it down to return to a world of finite resources and heat death. Alvara's breathing has become labored. The radiation is getting to her despite the suit's shielding. We're running out of time. The cascade is killing the planet, I say, starting to move toward the anomaly's edge. The tidal effects alone will shatter continental shelves within months. Growing pains, Evren says, moving to intercept us. The collective has run the projections. 90% population reduction in the short term, but the survivors will inherit a universe with rewritten rules. Unlimited energy, matter conversion, gravity manipulation. We'll be gods. We'll be dead. I power up the particle projector. The device hums against my back, its magnetic field creating a counterpoint to the anomaly's gravitational song. Get out of our way, Evren. I can't do that. He raises his own weapon, something I don't recognize, all curved surfaces and blue glowing components. Definitely not human technology. The collective equipped you well, Alvara observes, her voice getting weaker. They're invested in our success. Evren's finger hovers over what I assume is a trigger. Stand down, both of you. Let the transformation continue. Join us willingly, and they'll provide protection during the transition. Who are they, Evren? Who is the collective? The previous iteration. The species that reached this point in their evolution cycle and made the transition successfully. They've been waiting for us to develop sufficient technology to trigger the cascade events. We're not the first civilization to break through to post-scarcity physics. The anomaly pulses again, stronger this time. Chunks of concrete lift off the ground around us, hanging in the air for several seconds before crashing down. My radiation detector is screaming now, the numbers climbing beyond its measurement range. Alvara, can you reach the primary focusing array? I ask quietly. Maybe, if you keep him busy. Kale, don't make me kill you, Evren says. Alvara wouldn't want that. Alvara died trying to stop this thing. She figured it out, didn't she? That's why she went back into the facility during the evacuation. She knew you'd sabotaged the safety systems. Evren's weapon droops slightly. She was brilliant, but she couldn't see the bigger picture. None of you could. You're still thinking like members of a Type 0 civilization, bound by scarcity and linear time. I'm thinking like a human being who doesn't want to see his species enslaved by alien puppet masters. Not enslaved. Elevated. I trigger the particle projector's targeting system. The device locks onto the anomaly's quantum signature and begins calculating optimal intervention angles. The process will take 90 seconds, time we don't have. Targeting initiated, I announce, hoping Avren's alien benefactors haven't upgraded his equipment with mind-reading capabilities. He raises his weapon. Final warning, Kale. Go to hell. Avren fires. The alien weapon produces a beam of coherent gravity waves that hits me like being punched by a planet. I'm thrown backward, my ribs cracking against the projector's housing. The device's targeting computer shrieks warnings about system damage. Alvara moves while Avren is focused on me. She sprints toward the anomaly's edge, where the salvaged focusing array components are scattered among the rubble. The gravitational field catches her immediately, stretching her body like taffy before snapping her back to normal dimensions. Alvara. I struggle to my feet, tasting blood inside my helmet. Keep him busy, she shouts back, her voice distorting as the gravity waves play havoc with our communications. Avren swings his weapon toward her, but I tackle him before he can fire. We crash into a pile of twisted metal, our suits grinding against the jagged edges. Warning lights flash inside both our helmets as the integrity seals strain. You don't understand what you're destroying, Avren gasps, trying to bring his weapon to bear at point-blank range. I understand extinction when I see it. I grab his wrist, pushing the alien gun away from my head. How many worlds have your collective friends elevated into empty space? For a moment, doubt flickers across his features. Then it's gone, replaced by fanatic certainty. The universe is vast, Kale. There's room for infinite possibilities, not at the cost of our reality. The particle projector's targeting system completes its calculations. I have a clear shot at the anomaly's quantum entanglement matrix, the theoretical weak point Alvara identified in her final notes. But I need to be within 50 meters of the event horizon to ensure the exotic matter shell doesn't deflect the beam, which means walking into a gravitational field that will tear me apart at the atomic level. Alvara has reached the focusing array. She's connecting power cables with hands that shake from radiation sickness, trying to boost the projector's output enough to punch through the exotic matter barrier. Array online, she calls out. You have maybe one shot before the field variance makes targeting impossible. Avren breaks free from our struggle and aims his weapon at Alvara. I'm sorry it has to end this way. So am I. I don't think. I just move, diving into the anomaly's outer edge just as Avren fires. The gravity waves meant for Alvara catch me instead, accelerating my fall toward the event horizon. The world becomes a kaleidoscope of bent light and impossible angles. My bones stretch and compress in rhythms that spell agony in languages I don't have words for. The particle projector's weight increases exponentially, then disappears entirely, then threatens to crush me into neutron-dense paste. But I'm close enough now. Close enough to see the anomaly's heart, a knot of twisted space-time wrapped around something that might be a doorway, or might be a wound in reality itself. I trigger the projector. The modified particle beam punches through the exotic matter shell like a bullet through tissue paper. For an instant, I see what lies beyond the anomaly. Vast spaces filled with geometries that hurt to perceive, and something watching from impossibly distant dimensions. Then the quantum entanglement cascade reverses, and the anomaly begins to collapse inward on itself. The gravitational field releases me like a slingshot. I'm thrown clear of the event horizon, tumbling through normal space while the impossible knot of twisted physics unravels behind me. When I finally stop rolling, Alvara is pulling me to my feet. Through my cracked helmet, I can see the distortion shrinking, reality reasserting itself in wavering ripples. Is it over? She asks. I check my instruments. The exotic matter signature is fading, but not disappearing entirely. The gravitational anomaly has stabilized at roughly 1% of its previous size. Still dangerous, but no longer growing. Contained, I say. Not eliminated. We've bought time, not victory. Avren lies motionless nearby, his alien weapon shattered, his suit's life support systems flashing red warnings. He's alive but unconscious, probably from feedback when his collective masters lost their connection through the collapsing anomaly. What now? Alvara asks. I look around at the ruins of humanity's greatest scientific achievement, at the twisted landscape that will never heal completely, at the sky where other anomalies still pulse with alien light on distant horizons. Now we make sure this never happens again, I say, and we watch the sky for signs that the collective isn't finished with us. The anomaly gives one final pulse, a gravitational hiccup that makes my teeth ache. Then it settles into a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat made of curved space-time. Contained but not conquered. Sleeping but not dead. Just like the rest of us. Radiation exposure, critical, immediate medical attention required. Mission status, primary objective achieved, secondary containment established. Personal note, Alvara was right. We don't come back from this. Not the same people we were. Transmission ends. Incident report, post-stabilization assessment. Date, 127 days post-initial event. Reporting officer, Dr. Cale Rain, Chief Monitoring Specialist. Co-supervisor, Dr. Alvara Holt, Radiation Assessment Division. Location, Mobile Research Station Alpha, 7, former CERN perimeter. The gravitational anomaly has been contained, not eliminated. I need to be precise about this distinction because precision is all we have left in a world where the fundamental constants we once trusted have become negotiable. The reversal sequence worked partially. When Alvara and I triggered the modified particle beam 127 days ago, we managed to collapse the anomaly's expansion phase. The exotic matter stabilized into what we're calling a controlled singularity, roughly the size of a basketball, hovering 3 meters above what used to be the main collision chamber. It's beautiful, in a way that makes your teeth ache. A perfect sphere of distorted space-time that bends light around it like a lens made of gravity itself. We lost Evren in the process. Not to death, though perhaps that would have been kinder. The gravitational shear caught him as he tried to manually override our containment field in those final moments. His body, well, the medical term is extreme tidal elongation. Dr. Holt says he was likely unconscious before the worst of it, but I've stopped asking her to repeat that reassurance. The conspiracy he was part of died with him, and the global communication blackout. We may never know who orchestrated the simultaneous accidents at particle accelerators worldwide, or why. The Beijing facility, Fermilab, KK in Japan, all experiencing identical containment failures within a 6-hour window. Too precise to be coincidence, too devastating to investigate properly now. Current continental status. The European power grid remains 60% operational. The cascade failures stabilized once we eliminated the electromagnetic interference from the uncontrolled anomaly. Nuclear plants in France, Germany, and Belgium achieved cold shutdown, though 3 facilities in the primary radiation zone will require decades of cleanup. The dead zones extend roughly 200 kilometers in each direction from here, not lifeless, but changed. Trees grow in spirals now, following the residual gravitational distortions. Animals show accelerated adaptation patterns that will keep evolutionary biologists busy for generations, assuming we still have generations. Cities are rebuilding, but differently. Geneva sits mostly empty. The radiation isn't lethal anymore, but the space-time fluctuations make long-term habitation uncomfortable. People report temporal displacement symptoms, losing minutes, experiencing brief loops, occasionally seeing reflections of themselves from several seconds in the future. The human mind wasn't designed to process reality when causality becomes flexible. Personal assessment. Dr. Holt and I have established a functional working relationship. She no longer accuses me of murdering her sister every morning. Now it's only every few days. Progress. We've calibrated 17 monitoring stations around the containment zone, each one measuring gravitational flux, radiation decay, and what Alvara Ford's notes called quantum coherence degradation. Her theoretical work saved us, even posthumously. I carry her research journal everywhere now, along with the guilt that will never fully stabilize no matter how we try to contain it. The refugee camps are evolving into permanent settlements. The Swiss government, operating from Bern, has designated the outer containment zone as a special administrative region. Bureaucracy adapts faster than gravity, apparently. People are learning to live with the new physics, children especially. They play games now that involve throwing balls along curved space-time paths, laughing as projectiles arc in impossible directions. Monitoring protocols. Every 6 hours, we take measurements. The contained anomaly shows 99.7% stability over the past month. The 0.3% variance keeps us both awake at night. We've calculated that if it destabilizes again, we'll have approximately 14 minutes to implement emergency collapse procedures before the expansion phase becomes irreversible. 14 minutes to save a continent, assuming our containment theories remain valid in a universe that's already proven our fundamental understanding wrong once. Dr. Holt has been working on portable detection equipment. Her prototype gravitational sensors can identify space-time distortions at the molecular level, useful for mapping safe zones and detecting early signs of anomaly expansion. She's also developing what she calls temporal anchor technology, devices that might prevent the small-scale causality violations that plague the inner zones. Yesterday, she smiled when the first prototype successfully stabilized a 10-second time loop in the lab. It was the first genuine smile I'd seen from her since we lost Alvara. Communication protocols. We broadcast daily status updates on emergency frequencies 121.5 and 243.0 MHz. Range is approximately 500 kilometers due to atmospheric distortion from residual exotic particles. Other monitoring stations worldwide respond when atmospheric conditions permit. The Beijing team achieved partial containment last month. Fermilab reports their anomaly remains stable but uncontained. It's growing slowly but predictably. They estimate another 18 months before mandatory evacuation of Chicago. The automated emergency alert system still broadcasts every 12 hours. Stabilization achieved. Long-term monitoring established. Avoid inner exclusion zones. Report temporal anomalies to nearest monitoring station. It's become background noise now, like air conditioning or heartbeats. The sound of our new normal. Adaptation metrics. Humans are remarkably adaptable. The settlements around our monitoring stations have developed their own rhythms, their own cultures. The curve riders are young people who've learned to surf the gravitational distortions using modified wingsuit technology. Dangerous, beautiful, completely insane. The time gardeners cultivate crops in areas where temporal flow moves at different rates, harvesting vegetables that aged months and minutes, preserving food that decays backwards. Dr. Holt jokes that we're witnessing evolution in real time. Not just biological evolution, cultural, technological, philosophical. Children born in the outer zones will grow up thinking causality violations are as natural as weather patterns. They'll develop intuitions about space-time that would have taken Einstein decades to calculate. Forward projections. The mathematical models suggest stable containment is possible indefinitely, provided we maintain current monitoring protocols. The infrastructure investment required is enormous, essentially permanent vigilance over an area the size of Switzerland. But humanity built cities around volcanoes, farmed floodplains, established colonies in deserts. We'll learn to live with controlled impossibility too. I dream sometimes about the universe before we broke it. Neat, predictable physics where effects followed causes in orderly succession. Where gravity pulled straight down and time moved forward at a constant rate. But when I wake up and watch the sunrise bend around our contained anomaly, painting spirals of light across the landscape, I remember that we didn't break the universe. We just discovered it was stranger and more magnificent than we'd imagined. Final entry notation. Tomorrow marks 128 days since the initial event. Dr. Holt and I will conduct our standard monitoring sweep, calibrate the gravitational sensors, and update our stability calculations. It's routine now, the careful, methodical work of living with the impossible. The emergency alert system will broadcast again at 0600 hours. The contained anomaly will continue its perfect, terrible dance 3 meters above the ruins of humanity's most ambitious scientific project. And we'll continue watching, measuring, and adapting to the reality we created when we reached too far into the fundamental forces of existence. This is our world now. Different, dangerous, but still ours. We'll make it work. End report. Dr. Cale Rain, Chief Monitoring Specialist. Dr. Alvara Holt, Radiation Assessment Division. Mobile Research Station Alpha 7. Day 127 post-stabilization.